Welcome to The Voluntary Option with your host, Peter Yates.
Well, good Wednesday evening.
Well, hello, everyone.
I don't know if my intro played yet or not, but it kind of like flashed on the screen a little bit.
I have
so we're
no
just going to
idea.
hold this.
I'm normally not here for this. So I wouldn't know.
Well, it's Wednesday night, so that means it's time for The Voluntary Option. I'm your host, Peter Yapel. I have the pleasure this week of being joined by my wife, my better half, my better everything, Helen.
You damn Skippy.
That's right. And we both co-host Canada We Talk 420 Radio on Tuesday evenings on YouTube as well. So you can see we got the banner hanging. The first choice, not a third party.
That's right.
The Voluntary Option believes and lives by the premise that the Libertarian Party is the first choice. It's not just a third party and not just a afterthought.
Well, doesn't it make sense? I mean, it's you have the Republicans and the Democrats can never agree on anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Libertarians who take a little bit from each and say, you know what, we might have the answer for you guys.
Mm-hmm. But we don't agree with each other either. But we still disagree that the problems that we need to solve have solutions, and we have better solutions than obviously.
For sure.
Listen, it's been a really
logical.
It's been a weird week. Helen's hours got changed. We've got a lot of things going on around the property as we always do that we're fixing up and trying to get things going. So it's been a lot of running around. Now, again, when we run around and we want something, we've got to drive an hour before we're to anywhere that has even a store. So it's been a lot. It's very challenging.
I don't mind that at all. What I do mind, however, whoever those of you that follow both of our podcasts, Can We Talk and The Voluntary Option, we were not on Can We Talk last night. Jim, our producer, took over for us because we had some serious Wi-Fi issues, and then we tried to fix them today, only to find out, get this. Now, when we hooked up the Wi-Fi through a company called Viasat, it cost us $300 just to get them to come out to the house, just to set the appointment up. So we set the appointment up, and I made sure that I ordered whatever their highest package was, their premier package, so that we could stream these podcasts as they are so important to our livelihood, to what we are, the message we are trying to get out there. And they assured me that we had their premium. And then when we were having trouble the past 7 days, we were having some trouble with it. Like I couldn't FaceTime my kids. We couldn't do the podcast yesterday.
Watch a TV show.
I didn't understand what was happening. Yeah, we can't even go on our in demand without every 5 seconds it buffering because we just don't have the streaming power. So when I'm contacting them today, Peter and I noticed that on their automated system where they constantly repeat themselves, they say they're talking about your data usage. And we're thinking, we got unlimited. So what are they talking about? So we get on finally to someone that can help us a little bit, which ended up being transferred to somebody else because I could not understand what the gentleman was trying to say to me. And I wanted to be clear in understanding what package did I actually get? Well, I guess we got a silver package, and silver isn't their highest. They got a gold, which I needed to ask, do you have a platinum? Because I need to figure this out. I need to get the right one.
Well, even with the silver, they said it was unlimited.
Yes, they said all of their packages are unlimited, but it's not unlimited data. So what happens is we had 45 gigs. And it seems that carried us throughout the month up until about the end of the month, the last week. And when we ran out of data, what happened? We got bumped to the back of the line of the users of the Wi-Fi. So our Wi-Fi speed slowed down.
Oh, on satellite, folks. I can't understand this on satellite.
So I'm scratching my head still from the conversation. However, I did leave it saying, well, it really kind of sucks that we need to use your services. Otherwise, I tell you to go screw yourself. And
she did too.
It's exactly what I said.
Not to the girl. She said,
I would tell the company to go screw themselves. But they know they got you by the, you know what? So it's like, give me the premium package now that you have, which they say is their gold. I said, don't come up with a platinum later on. Because by me doing that, I also waived my
$50 savings.
$50 savings for 3 months. So now I'm paying almost about $300 a month
for TV
and internet,
and
which
basic
is
shit.
disgusting.
No, that's not like a premium package.
No.
Only
No.
the internet is a premium package. They don't get shit for TV.
But their speed never changes.
No,
they said.
never. The speed is the same for no matter who you are. It just depends on how many gigabytes of usage you have.
So again, I did what I had to do so that he was able to do his show tonight, and that we could at least now keep an eye on the data usage, so that hopefully Can We Talk isn't interrupted once again.
Or the show, either one.
Either one.
Yeah.
But what a head scratcher, man. I was like,
welcome
that's
to
just
America
not
and
right.
regulations. And
It's not right.
double talk.
But it is what it is now.
All the bullshit that goes on.
So all the more reason why we have things like Patreon and Teespring and to help us
and what
take
Helen's
care of these
speaking
things.
about is our accounts to help us with our production, to help us with our website, to help us along, to keep bringing you pertinent, good information, bringing you guests on the show that are sharing information and their stories with you, and making a better America and just a better world in general. So if you could visit www.patreon.com/CWT42TVO, you too could be a member, a Patreon member. And it was pretty neat listening to the show yesterday when Jim took it, because our packages, after you hit the $30 level, you receive something in the mail every month.
Every month,
Whether it be whether it be some sort of a tincture or medicine,
a soap, a
a
hand
body spray,
sanitizer, a bath bomb,
Right.
all three.
right? Depending
It's
on the level.
A facial serum. There's lots that we offer through that
And that comes
Patreon site.
every month without
Faithfully.
you having to order it.
That's right.
It comes right to your door,
That's right.
right to your mailbox, right to your P.O. box, however you receive parcels. So we can give back to you for giving to us and helping with us. And we're able to do these things, a lot of these things, especially because we do have a lot of people out there support. Mike Robinson has been amazing with providing us with some hemp capsules and extras that we've been giving away. If you've noticed the Can We Talk show, we give away product on that. Maria from Mary's
Natural
Creations. She has soaps and hand sanitizers and bath bombs and such. And we've been giving those away because they've been donating it to us for us too. We're helping build their business in entrepreneurial spirit, again, as far as libertarians go.
Yep.
But the biggest thing is Mother Nature's Den. Mother Nature's Den is now officially out on the market with the liking of my wife's face on the bottle, as it is. That's why we're doing this. She has such care and compassion for people. She really worries about every human being's health and understands physiology, the ECS, and the way that the plant mimics our body. So I couldn't have a better representative of the plant nor a product for us to put out there other than my wife.
I was just on one of Joe's posts, Joe Jorgensen's posts, where they were questioning her in reference to what her stance is on the drug war. Would she legalize everything? And one person had put on there that they're opposed to the ingestion of cannabis on any other level than a medicinal one. And, I had to ask why, well, do you understand, what the ECS is? Do you understand what human physiology is? How the plant mimics that? Do you understand oxidative stress or an apoptotic lifestyle? Because, our society is way far away from that.
You understand you can't take it without using it as medicine to begin with?
Exactly. And so it's just, there's just so much misinformation out there on Mother Nature, period, let alone the plants, the cannabis plant. It's all plants. I mean, they people have no idea what's out there to regulate the human body, and
that's why, guys,
that's
please
why
pay
I do what I do.
take a look at it. Go, and if you can, become a member. Become a Patreon member of our thing. Again, it only helps us pay for this podcast that we have to pay for our websites that we have to pay for, and things like that. Mm-hmm. So please help out if you can. Also, we have Teespring. Teespring is www.teespring.com/stores/CWT42small-OTVO-swag, and you can get TVO or CWT swag right there.
Or Mother Nature's Day.
Or Mother Nature's done, right.
And we have everything. I do have to go on and create some more stuff, but we have masks. We have blankets, pillows. We have towels. We have
coffee mugs.
Little clothes for dogs and baby onesies. We have lots of great stuff. Socks and leggings,
pillows. We've got a little bit of everything on there, just so that everybody can have a little piece of us.
And hey, and you know what? I can personalize for you.
That's
so
right.
If you have something that you want specifically for yourself,
just let us know. We can make
put
it
in
for
the
you.
comments. Say, hey, Helen, I want a shirt with this saying on it, or whatever. And I'll make it, and I'll tell you, hey, it's ready. Go get it. Go order it.
All this stuff is relevant. All relevant for a couple of reasons, especially because of the guests that we have on this evening. Mm-hmm. Tonight, we have the pleasure of being able to interview someone who I believe has an incredible story. Someone that is a freedom fighter. Someone that is all about liberty. Someone that is all about fairness and just being able to live a good life. Simple, good, ungovernment-bound life.
I look at her as an old soul because she's young. Mm-hmm. She could be my kid, and I call her my kid all the time. Yeah. But she sees things. She has a cognizance about her that normally comes with some serious experience.
And age, yes.
And that experience normally is coupled with age. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have the age. No. But she certainly has the experience, right. and it shows. Mm-hmm. It shows with every word that she utters. It shows with all of her actions. It shows. We don't always see eye to eye, but we both have a level of respect for each other that we're not supposed to all see eye to eye, and we get it.
We agree to disagree.
So it's. With no further ado,
we'll have Joie Leigh on today. GI Mary Jane for you those, and she runs the platoon 420. Mm-hmm. And Zig's gonna join us, the Ganja Grunt. We're gonna bring him in as well. And we'll let you learn a little bit about him too. An amazing tour that these guys are on right now. And
I look forward to hearing
without further ado, if I can have my incredible producer pull up my two lovely guests and bring them in to join me and my wife. We appreciate it. Thank you, Jim.
What's going on, guys? Helen, I'm over here all verklempt. Is that the right word?
Sure,
I love you guys too. It's absolutely you encompassed it like family. I feel like I've known the both of you for thousands of years, even though neither of us have been these guys.
That's why I had said to you, Joey. I said, we're good friends. We're all like family. But I really want to take the chance to interview you. I want people to understand who you are, not just see my buddy on the screen, my two buddies on the screen doing things, within the community or within the political realm and fighting for freedom and for fighting for liberty is fighting for the freedom of this planet as well. I wanted people to get to know you and what's driven you to have the passion in which you have, and everything that you do.
Because what fueling you? Let's start from the beginning.
So, Joey, why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself and of course our great friends, the Ganja Grunt. You guys why don't you just introduce yourselves to those of you that may not know who you are.
Awesome. Well, we are GI Mary Jane and Ganja Grunt. I am the commander in chief, platoon 420, and wonderfully enough, Ganja Grunt has joined me to help with the journalistic and tour, everything that platoon 420 does. What we do is we set out to report the drug war news from the perspective of the victims. So many times you see your Google feed in the morning and It makes some school teacher who had a joint out to look like a criminal. I don't like that. There needs to be a media company, an independent media source, reporting in their favor. Because let's face it, if there is no victim, there is no crime. So these arrests are not arrests, they're kidnappings. These raids are not raids, they're violent home invasions, and it's not a ransom. I'm sorry, it's not a bail. It's actually a ransom. Because again, these people didn't hurt anybody. They didn't create any victims. In fact, prohibition made them victims, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
Find us on the road.
Most of the news sources that you're going to see are going to demonize these people. We try to put it from the other perspective.
And so, Joey, for those that don't know, what really put this activist realm for cannabis, especially when it comes to cannabis, what was it that just was the straw that broke the camel's back that got you to the point where you just couldn't keep your mouth shut anymore?
It's so multifaceted, really. My official start in cannabis activism was when I took a volunteer position with Maryland's chapter of NORML, of course, being the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, back in 2015, late 2015. But the reasons behind that were not quite as layered then as they are right now. But basically, I was hung up in the middle of a situation where, my marriage didn't work out. I was trying to separate, and I had custody courts trying to convince me that I was a danger to my child simply because of this, not for any other reason. They forced me on traditional medication, which I had no experience with. It threw my life for a loop, completely turned everything upside down. At some point I put my foot down and went back to the cannabis that I know was helping to treat my conditions, and that backfired. So I found out that even when you do what you're told, even when you pay the state their extortion fee and you get your medical card and you do everything within the lines of the law, they can still demonize you. There's no protections for patients out there. So it's very frustrating.
And that's the reason that I constantly have the argument about legalization. They try to regulate something they know nothing about. And this is what happens.
Well, this is the problem with it. First of all, it's a plant. It shouldn't be politicized in any way whatsoever. And that's the bottom line with it. How can you sit back and take something from nature, dig it up out of the ground, and tell it that it's a bad boy and that it's a bad thing? And what do you do? Look at what you do to people, and we're going to have to keep you under control. And it's just not. It's not been effective. It hasn't been smart, and it's not going to work.
And you nailed it, right? Like, if there was any other plant out there that was literally being eradicated, we would be spending millions of tax dollars to protect this plant from extinction. But since it's cannabis, they're doing the exact opposite. They're spending millions of dollars to try to make it extinct. And it's the one or two plants we do that.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
It's unfortunate, especially in a world where we talk so much about climate change. Here we are trying to manipulate the environment in ways that only Mother Nature knows how. So clearly we're failing there. Not to mention, there's a shirt that's for sale on our merch site that says "Prohibition kills more than what is prohibited." And I've had people tell me, like, that's a bit extreme. Prohibition doesn't kill any. Prohibition absolutely kills people. You consider anybody for weed, they're going to end up dying in jail. You consider somebody who is put in jail for weed and forced off medication, then they're let out of jail, but they end up committing suicide or overdosing afterwards because of the side effects of being ripped off of that medication. It is literally killing people. It is an epidemic. We talk about COVID right now. And the numbers that COVID's taking, I would venture to say, and there's no way of doing this math, I think prohibition kills more every single year than COVID or any other flu could possibly.
Not to mention, if you move something to the black market, that just invites the violent criminals that are willing to work within that black market. And that's where you're getting your product from. Instead of a safe access place like a dispensary, you have to go to that scumbag down the road. It may not be a safe environment. So the black market And prohibition is also a direct link to why that violence happens.
And the black market has a bad name. It's an unregulated market, like Al Capone. They can do whatever they want and use whatever threats of violence because they know you are an illegal drug user. So if they mistreat you, you can't call the police, who your tax dollars are paying to protect you, because then they'll arrest you for being in possession of that substance instead of protect you from the person who's trying to bully you. It's a crazy situation. And society has those dangers of the black market and the consumers in the black market dangerously confused, right? So I understand the stigma of, dirty drug users and this and your thieves and all those things. That is the black market. But the black market would not exist. Well, it would exist to some extent, but it wouldn't exist in the drug industry if we had safe access to these substances, whatever they may be.
The black market is nothing but free enterprise.
That's
and
right.
I don't give a crap
That's right.
what anybody says about
That's right.
it. Just because you don't have a store and didn't pay $1 million for your licensing and all this shit, don't mean a goddamn thing when it comes to this plant. It doesn't mean a thing when it comes to it. Because the ignoramuses that have the $1 million know nothing about this plant. They don't know the good that it does. They have no idea. They just see a dollar sign. And that dollar sign is so inflated. Come on, you've been traveling for how long now? You can get an eighth of weed in friggin' Oregon for $5. But if you go to Arizona, you're paying $40 for an eighth of weed. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Maryland.
How far and spread about what's it? And I'll tell you one thing. The pot in Oregon is better than the pot anywhere else, anywhere. So if you're paying for the best shit, the least amount of money, tell me how this is this in any way, shape, or form. And why is it that it is like that? It is that way because you were able to grow. They had an incredible freaking medical program. They added recreational to it and screwed it all goddamn up. Now they've got a surplus of all this bud that the government wants them to pay to test and give me more money for this and give me more money for that bullshit. And they've just got this huge surplus now because now this stuff won't pass the guidelines that they said. Let's back up the clock and understand no one has ever died from this plant, even when it's been pounded with pesticides. No one's ever died from this plant. So stop the regulations, stop people from being able to earn a living, and let's make America healthy again.
Well, and that's the thing.
Something to run on.
And that's the thing. And that's why I talk about anything less than the end of prohibition is simply genocide.
Absolutely.
We are a sick society, and we are a sick society all by design. This was done on purpose, and the only thing that can help us is to get as close to Mother Nature as we can, and we got a fucking cage around her.
Absolutely.
Right. What happened when they criminalized the opium den? That was a big thing pre-prohibition, right? And it was all of a sudden we have heroin. You took nature away from people. I'm not condoning the use of any substances. Whatever substances you want to use is up to you and you alone. If you want to talk to your doctor about it, by all means. However, when we got rid of that, when we criminalized the opium den, where people were, they were essentially going to a bar, smoking a bunch of this plant, passing out, walking home safe in the morning.
Safe access.
Nobody got hurt. Nobody got it. We take that away, and all of a sudden we have heroin in the streets. Same thing happened with cocaine. They made that illegal. Crack was easier to make. It was easier to distribute. Now we have a harder drug on the street. And we see that now with heroin to fentanyl. Prohibition is creating more dangerous substances.
Sure.
It's insane.
You've even seen it with cannabis. Remember salvia when it came out and people were jumping out of windows and stuff because it was a synthetic weed? And it was, you could buy it over the counter at the gas station because they hadn't quite made it illegal. Same with ephedrine when they were putting it in stackers. It was a legal form of a speed high like you would get from cocaine. So, every time they make a prohibition, they give us a reason to find a loophole to make a more dangerous substance for people to try to get high from.
And I'm sick and tired of watching my friends die and get arrested, and it's.
And let's be completely honest, when they become addicts, most of the time the gateway drug is trauma. It's not cannabis, it's trauma. So these people are traumatized
exactly.
and they
So
self-medicate with some sort of substance.
doctor's
And
prescription.
then
That's your,
the government
your
comes
gateway.
along and re-traumatizes them by turning them into criminals. They take away the right to vote because they make them felons. They take away their right to protect themselves with a Second Amendment because now they're felons. And then that felony charge follows them forever. They can't get decent housing. They can't get a decent job because anyone can do a background check and see that this person had a mental health condition.
They're not going to take a chance.
And
that ties right into this systemic racism problem that we see today. Is these laws, prohibition and other victimless crime laws, are being used primarily against the minority community. I've seen this happen before. If I get caught with weed, okay, in a pre-prohibition Baltimore City street, I'm going to get let go, whereas my black friend would end up in handcuffs. I had seen it happen a million times. And then all of a sudden, you're not a citizen. You can't own a gun, right? You can't vote. And this is, some cities have changed this in states, which is great. But it's being used as a tool to manipulate the minority community. And whether or not that's intentional or unintended consequences, I don't care. It is there. It is black and white. And if we end prohibition to start with, which 40% of our prison population is comprised of people who are in there for simple, nonviolent drug possession. We take away the police's excuse to approach us on the street, right? At least by 40% based on those numbers, and I would say by 80%.
And then you take that would not only if you defunded the war on drugs, you would also defund the police. That's exactly what everyone's talking about. We don't need to abolish them. The police would have no reason to have so much funding and armored vehicles and to look like our military if there wasn't a war on drugs. They literally declared a war on American citizens.
Really? I think we lost him. You guys there? Uh-oh. I bet Jim Freedom's going to come and save the day sometime.
Well,
sometime soon.
We'll still try to keep you entertained.
We'll sell this story. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'll tell my
What's
story.
your background? We finally. Oh, wait, something's happening.
Oh wait, there's
there
Jim. So my background is, I joined the military in 2007. I deployed to Iraq in 2010, and I was an infantryman. And when I went to Iraq, I was in northern Iraq in Mosul. We did convoy escort. We went from Mosul to Turkey to all the way down to south to Balad. If you know Iraq, you probably know these areas. We went through Bob Spiker and Bob Warrior out in Kirkuk. I was the lead vehicle in these couple mile long convoys. And I came home to a pretty cliche story, unfortunately, for most veterans. I came home to the services that were promised were pretty non-existent, and the treatment that I could get was primarily just medications. And I ended up getting a job at the employment department of Oregon, working with veterans to help them find work, working with businesses to make sure they were following their contracts or duties for their federal contracts. Anyways, eventually left the state of Oregon and started traveling and sought out other medications aside from what the VA was offering me, and ended up finding cannabis and weaned myself off of barbiturates and sleeping aids and opiates. If you see me stirring in my chair, it's because I'm still nursing a back injury, but this is actually helping. So,
and you said the all too cliche story. So many veterans have that same story. I got home and I went to the doctor for help, and they started throwing drugs at me like ones at a stripper.
Kidding. Like, I was in with my appointment with the doctor one time, and this was like mind blowing to me. He didn't even look at me. A dude just sat there with his hands on the computer ready to type, and he's like, "All right, what's going on?" And I'm like, I'm having trouble sleeping. He's like, "All right, I'll write you a script for this. What else?" No kidding. That's how it went. Well, yeah, my back's kind of hurting. All right, I'll write you a script for this. What else? And that's how my appointment went. And kudos to the guy. He's got 500 appointments that day. But that's still the treatment that the majority of veterans are getting, because I know that doctor walked into 500 other veterans doctor's appointments that same day and did the same thing. Maybe not 500, it's exaggerating, but point remains, that's how he doctors, because he has no time to do anything else. The care that they get is nearly non-existent, and what does exist is primarily medication, just to prove that they're treating you. Because on paper, that looks like some sort of treatment program. But welcome back.
I was here the whole time. My phone rang. I didn't have my do not disturb on, so it kind of kicked me out of the studio.
That's all right, man. We kept your guests entertained. I introduced myself.
Yeah,
I know. We were listening to you. We heard you the whole time.
Awesome.
We
It's better.
heard you the whole time, so we're good.
To kind of wrap it up, when I started Platoon 420 back in 2018, it was because I felt strongly that we're all soldiers in a drug war. We're just like we're born into this. None of us signed up for this.
We inherited it.
We inherit. We walk out our door every day, and if we've got even if it's a legal substance like a Xanax you're prescribed, and you just got one pill in your pocket instead of the whole bottle, you risk being arrested and met with men with guns in your face and the threat of violence and how terrifying.
And being put in the back of the car that's in a cage, and move from that cage to the county cage, and then move from that cage to your cell, all because you didn't carry your bottle with you. How is that not cruel and unusual punishment? How is it that taking me to jail at 19 years old because I was with some friends and we were all smoking pot, and it was not even good weed, man. It was some swag. We got arrested over a bowl of some swag, and I spent a month in jail. And I had no legal protections really because I was too poor and young to understand primarily what was going on.
This is somebody who fought for our country, and early in my activism career, I did a lot of speaking out for veterans, back to get back to the multi-faceted, multi-layers of why I am so damn dedicated. Is my father is a police officer. He was a police officer in Baltimore City for 23 years. He was also a veteran. He was drafted in Vietnam. The man was a pastry chef, and he got drafted, and he was military police. He loved what he did. I don't think he was ever deployed, but when he came back, he continued his service because you know what? They told him he could retire at 45, and that's a hell of a deal, right? But he's a beat cop, and he served his community, but he wasn't blind to the corruption. And while he didn't quit, he made sure to teach me my rights. So, as far as this, take no shit with the bully tactics attitude that I might have, that comes directly from my father. And then in his dying days, when he had cancer, I watched the police department and the military, both of which he served, threaten to take his death benefits from him if he were to start using medical cannabis. So he didn't. So he went into chemotherapy, and instead of the cancer taking him, the chemo took out the pacemaker in his heart. And I can't help but imagine how much longer he could have been with us if he could have just smoked a little weed. And that killed me. And that's what made me really get active with NORML. That's when I started doing director of public outreach with them. Started doing rallies like Plants Over Pills, and we did a citizen support march from Virginia into DC. We had a guy waiting at the line with a bunch of joints just to symbolize how I'm a criminal right here. Over here, I'm not. And that is insane. And about a dozen of us marched all the way to the Capitol to show our support for the veterans. And I'm so happy that we have an actual veteran with the platoon to share that insight and be there as a resource for as much as we can. We can only do so much, but be there for a resource for other veterans.
In fact, some of them have already reached out to me, some battle buddies of mine that I went to Iraq with, and other folks too. Hey, where do I start? Where do I start with cannabis? I've never tried it. I don't know what to do. One guy I started with hit me up because he wanted to try it, and I'm like, okay, well, don't overdo it because it's pretty easy to do. He hits me up like a week later, and he's like, I smoked a joint like a cigarette, and I felt like I was still high the next day at lunch. And I was like, you might have overdone it, buddy. And so that kind of inspired me to. I'm actually building a pretty in-depth beginner's guide to cannabis, kind of with veterans in mind, but it'll benefit anybody because where do you begin? And if you do too much your first time and it's THC, and you don't have a high tolerance to it, you might have a really bad experience and it'll turn you off of it. In fact, it happened to me when I got out of the Army. I smoked like I did when I was 19 without a tolerance, and I got really paranoid and anxious, and it did the opposite of what I expected it to do because it was just too much at once. and it led to me having to like build up my tolerance to cannabis in order to treat, the conditions that I was trying to treat.
You know, I could put away a half-gram joint.
Well, listen, we all metabolize the plant differently anyway.
Right, but that again, I think with education is key to all of this that we're.
Uh-oh, did we lose you again?
May
What?
not have opted to, build up their cannabinoidal profile. They would have opted to just say, "Whoa, I had a bad experience, and I'm out of this game, and I'm not doing it
Exactly.
because I don't like it."
And they don't even know what cannabinoids are.
That's
They
how
don't
you
know
got
what
that
terpenes
medicine when we
are.
drove to Oregon, was because there was a cancer patient who didn't like the way he was feeling, and that's sad. It's got to change with education all the way around. That's the only way to do this. We need to
Yeah, I hate
educate
hearing when
people
people have a bad
why this
experience
plant
with
is so
cannabis.
important.
And a lot of them don't even know what cannabinoids are. They don't know what terpenes are. They don't know that there's hundreds of compounds in cannabis.
They're ingesting every day, by the way. They
problem.
don't even know they're ingesting these same terpenes every day in their food, and there's cannabinoids in other plants. People are literally scared. That's what propaganda does. And that's why I think the media site's so important to kind of reverse that narrative.
And no one else is doing it. No one else is reporting the drug news like we are, from the perspective of the victim.
I agree 100% with the fact that we should all familiarize ourselves with every compound in the plant and all the cannabinoids and what they can do for you and this, that, and thing. But again, we're talking about Americans we're trying to get this point across to, and they are the laziest group of freaking whatever you want to call them that there is. There isn't a human being that knows what's in an aspirin. They don't give a shit the aspirin works. They're going to say the same thing with cannabis.
Yes,
they
but
just
you know
need
what?
it to work.
But
and
you know what? Where we
yeah,
are
you'll always have the naysayers.
Today, people are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah,
they are, and they do want the change. But that change is not going to come unless there's education. We have to understand how to take. We don't need to know what every cannabinoid is. We, as citizens, we don't need to know what every terpene is or what it does. What we do need to know is how our human body works. The being that we possess. We need to know how to neutralize oxygen-free radicals. We need to know that. We need to know.
We need to be encouraged to listen to our bodies too. I think
how to live an apoptotic life. Most people don't even know what the word means. That is the problem.
I don't know what that word means, Helen. I'm embarrassed. No, we need to learn. We need to be encouraged to listen to our bodies again. I mean, we as human beings have been. It's been beat into us. If you do your 9-to-5 job and you don't come home and have dinner at this time and go to bed at this time and school starts, then you're not doing it right. And that's just not the answer. Every human being is different. Every human being has different sleep cycles. Think back to before civilization. Do you think all the cavemen were asleep at the same time? No, because they would have gotten okay. Some of them were awake, some of them were asleep. We all have different systems.
That's why we have night owls and morning.
Masks.
That's what that is.
Yeah, and when we get back to that voluntary live and let live society, people will be more comfortable listening to their bodies and not feeling unnecessary guilt about, well, I feel like I can take a nap in the middle of the day. I must be lazy. I can't do this. My mother said I can't do this, or whatever the case may be. We really need to get back to that voluntary state of mind. I'd say ideology is fair to say, but it shouldn't even be an ideology. It seems to be simple. I mean, voluntarism exists in the animal world.
We are a society that thinks right now. I speak to people that actually think that we are living longer. We are not living longer. There is no. We have such poor quality of life, let alone longevity of life, and that is simply because we don't know how to live. What we have been taught, the way to do things for our body, is so wrong, so wrong. We have been over time getting further and further and further away from Mother Nature and an apothecary remedy that we have made ourselves really sick with, depending on Western medicine and what they have to offer.
Well, we've been lulled into the fact that we have to be told everything.
We've been lulled right to sleep.
Listen, let's take this then to the next level of which we fight every single day for this plant. We fight for it, but we do it not only by just going on Facebook. We've found that we have to become politically involved, and when I say politically involved, I mean we have to change the face of what we believe politics are here in America. Thus voluntarism, anarchism, libertarianism, all of these principles in which embrace the other two's good points and make them into a snowball of happiness. We need to let everybody notice stuff and get it. Like I got a shirt on today that says liberty, not tyranny. 1776. Because why? Because we already have been through all this tyrannous bullshit of government control and being told what to be doing and 56,000 times around your ass taxed. All of the things that we all stood up for with pitchforks and lanterns at one point in time and ran the country grounds for 3 years without getting paid to fight off an oppressive government. We live within the same damn oppressive government right this minute. We've reverted in 240 years. We have allowed ourselves to be right back to where the heck we started. We got the
in fact a little worse off
the other idiots on the other screaming at each other across the aisle. It's not working no more.
Yeah, it is. It's almost worse.
It's a little worse off than we were. We fought England over a much smaller tax than the average American is being taxed today. So
yeah,
we're honestly, we inherited this, and we're like the lobsters that have been in the pot too long, man. We don't know how hot it is anymore.
And consider everything's got glitter on it now, right? Like it's right. The same level of tyranny, but it doesn't look the same. So it
like
feels
the more
like the More Act, which is what we're currently
in the middle of the More Tour.
You guys are familiar with the Marijuana Opportunity Act?
Yeah.
So
elaborate on the More Tour. Why don't you guys let everybody know what you're doing?
Yeah, they have the More Act going on, and they're going to deschedule cannabis, take it completely off of the Controlled Substance Act, and add a 5% tax for all sales at the federal level. They were also going to start the process of expunging previous federal, not state, federal convictions, and possibly releasing some of the nonviolent cannabis offenders in the federal prison system. Again, not the states.
The More Act was actually it was introduced to Congress by Kamala Harris back in late 2019, and I like it for the most part. But it's
here's the shiny turd.
It's a prettier Trojan horse than the bills of old. And again, back to my history, I've lobbied at the local level in Maryland. I've testified at the federal level. And I've lobbied on multiple federal decriminalization and legalization bills. I kind of stepped away from all that because these bills were exhausting me. None of them gave us what we deserve, and it seems so simple to me. We're moving off the Controlled Substance Act. I don't want to get into the reality that, yes, I believe all drugs should be legal. Let's just focus on cannabis. Get rid of it from the Controlled Substance Act. It seems so simple to me. And none of these bills ever did that. Well, this one does. So kudos to it for that. However, the Democrats introduced this, and the Democrats decided to block its continuation until after the election during the lame duck session.
It should have been voted on by now. In fact, it would have been voted on almost a week ago.
Doesn't seem like that big of a deal, right? Like, let's sit down and talk about it for 10 minutes. And the frustration that this has been going on for 30, 40 years now. It's insane how many bills have been
So they decided to postpone it until after the elections. What their reasoning behind that is kind of blows me away, but we also, I assume, it was dead on arrival as soon as it entered into Mitch McConnell's hands, he was going to squash it. The shiny turd part is that 5% tax that they put into this bill, right? So the 5% federal tax on all legal cannabis sales, that includes medical and recreational. Half of that, 2.5% of that, goes to the Department of Justice. Okay, and you go look at the Department of Justice's funding, and it's like 68% of their funding goes to law enforcement. Law enforcement's funding goes towards the war on drugs. So they're asking cannabis users to go fund the war on drugs because they know if they deschedule this, they're not going to get the income from civil asset forfeiture that they're getting now to fund the war on drugs. So they're going to ask us to pay for it via taxes, which you already see that in a lot of states as it sits anyways. I'm not morally okay with that whatsoever.
Taxation is a totally different subject. We all of us here know it.
If they were to send that tax
we know it's theft anyway. Taxation is just theft. But
I'm also not naive enough to think that we're ever going to get cannabis legalized without a federal tax.
No, and
I'm not that naive.
So if we taxation is what it is right now, fine, I'll accept that 5%. But I want to see it allocated to things that are going to help the communities that have been most affected. And there's some provisions in there, but you know, like like our $1,200 checks we got from the stimulus, how many trillions of dollars was that?
Not to mention the government doesn't spend money appropriately anyways. The majority of those dollars aren't going to go to helping people. It's going to go to setting up hospices and 401ks
and then they're going to say we don't have enough money. And then
every other tax it's going to go up and up and up.
I don't want that. I want to see cannabis in Whole Foods. I want to be able to go buy cannabis leaves because the actual leaves of the plant, I find great value in that when I put it in a smoothie for my Crohn's that I treat. It's incredible. But regulations have these growers destroying all of this plant material that can be used for nutritional value and medicine, and it blows my mind how much waste is going on in the industry, all because of federal prohibition. And back to your, why is weed so much here and not there? Tobacco grows best in Virginia, Kentucky, right? There's a special climate for weed too. And without being able to transport that weed that's grown in the best climate, you're going to see people spending excessive amounts of money on their indoor grow operations and greenhouses because the climate there doesn't allow for outdoor grow or, indoor grow or the grow season in general, right? We need this.
I know. People don't understand the expense.
A couple of good things besides the shiny curd is that you can interstate transfer this product now, just like any other product. You can also bank again because the cannabis industry can't use the banking industry because they're federally insured and they won't bank with you.
I would assume this would open up the door for cannabis dispensaries and grows to properly arm themselves.
It'll also open up loans for these industries.
It's the most discriminating against industry. They can't even defend themselves. If you own a dispensary, you cannot have armed guards. The bank can, the liquor store can, the strip club can, but not the dispensary where there is a high demand product in there just asking to be sold.
The farms can't buy insurance because they're federally insured. They can't buy insurance for their land. So if a fire comes through, which just happened here in Oregon, none of them get to claim an insurance claim and get their losses back. They can't even get the FEMA funds that are coming in for the people because they're a cannabis industry and FEMA is a federal organization. So they're basically left to just, they're done because there's fires that came through and tore them up. If we were to legalize them more active and probably also have like a Walmart big box cannabis.
In the last 5 minutes of listening to y'all, I got to say one thing. I have thrown up in the back of my mouth at least 15 times. And the reason why is because everything you said that's been contrary to what's positive has been followed with federal, the word federal. When we, the people, understand that we need to get rid of the federal government that's in place at this time because it's archaic and corrupt and probably the biggest. I mean, if you 500 and some odd seats people sit down in Congress, you could probably arrest every one of those 500 human beings for something that
you could arrest every American that there is, Pete, because the regulations and the laws we have in place have made it so that every one of us is actually a criminal. It's just whether or not we get caught doing whatever it is we're doing.
Or if they're
That's
willing to
right.
enforce it if we are caught.
Hey, did you guys see what Jo Jorgensen said on her live feed last night about what she would do about prohibition?
Go ahead.
I love this because everybody's like, oh, sign the executive order. It's not that easy, right? President can't do a whole lot about prohibition, unfortunately. It's up to Congress.
And Congress allocates those funds on a vote.
So Jo Jorgensen said that what she would do, if elected, was I love it. This was such this is like Big Joe energy here, right? She said that she would go to the DA and she would tell him that enough is enough. He is not to arrest any more nonviolent citizens. She walked in all nonviolent crimes. I mean, I'm talking all drugs, prostitution, land and
selling lemonade on the side of the road without a permit.
And that if he refused, and that we continued to see these lockups, she would simply pardon everybody the very next day that they were arrested.
Presidential pardon.
That's awesome.
Brilliant. I love it. If I needed another reason to vote for her, I don't.
You can't override that. You can't override that. So they would put these DAs in a stalemate, sending all these funds and going nowhere, letting them run in place.
I love this so much. I do.
Hey, listen,
I hate getting political. Yeah, I hate getting political, but after years and years of lobbying and testifying, being in and out of the halls of Congress and Senate, and listening to all this nonsense, and actually meeting representatives and senators that will admit they sell weed as a protest thing, and nobody seems to care about it. Okay, and they openly sell weed in the halls of Congress, not literally in the halls, but announce that they do outside to try to ruffle some feathers, and
hell,
people don't even care. But the only
Junior doing cocaine.
Yeah, the only way we're going to it's been 40 years 50 years since NORML was founded. And there's been so many other groups underneath of them that have introduced bills, lobbied, they've done this, they've done that. We've had a Democrat Congress, a Republican Congress, a split Congress, a Democratic president. It's been every single which way. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares.
No.
And you can't convince me otherwise.
The studies are there. The information is there. Studies show that these people need treatment, not trauma.
I get where to begin.
Yeah. Listen, we've got to as Americans, and it's very simple on this podcast. Let's face it. The people that watch this podcast understand our government sucks. They understand we need change. They understand they understand that we've been getting screwed over 6 ways to Sunday our whole entire lives. I'm not going to gain a libertarian doing this podcast, unless I'm lucky and somebody's curious and comes by and says it and just happens to agree with what we're speaking about. But the fact,
that message is still important to be heard all the time, as often as possible.
Well, and what you're really need to know is
the fact
email.
We have to do it this way is ridiculous. I hope that people start to open their eyes a little bit more, start to listen to the benefits rather than all of the fake. I mean, fake news comes out in everything that's good for you, I guess. I was thinking about it before when you were talking about the cavemen. Not all the cavemen went to well, I wonder if all the cavemen wore masks, or if they had the cavemen that argued about wearing masks. I don't care what you do as an individual. Just don't care what I do. If
just
I
don't force it on me.
Don't look at me like I'm killing you, because I'm not killing you. And I'm not going to look at you when you're wearing your mask that you're saving me, because you're not saving me or anybody I know either. So, to each his own, live and let live, and the world.
And don't hurt no one doing it.
Better place.
Hippie never hurt no one. The cannabis community has been so peaceful historically too. It's
that might be why we haven't legalized it, because we're too stoned to be violent about it.
Yeah, maybe, perhaps. But and again, back to the we're all of us. We're we do this outreach, we're trying to normalize this. We shouldn't have to. We should just be a society that instead of teaching abstinence, we knew it didn't work, right? With the whole sex ed thing in the 80s, they switched that all around. They stopped teaching abstinence and they started teaching harm reduction, right? They let you know your pros and your cons, and they told you what to expect so that you, as an adult, could make an informed decision and be responsible for your own actions. Why doesn't that exist in everything? We shouldn't have to normalize anything. Nobody should have to explain to me why they do something. They should be able to identify whether or not it's a problem in their life, and they should be able to take care of it on their own. Period.
That's absolutely right. So why don't you guys let us know where you're at right now, what the More Tours got going on, where you're headed, and how people can help you.
Well, we're in Bend, Oregon right now. We just published a debriefing. We started in Colorado Springs, went down to
Taos, New Mexico.
Taos, up to Breckenridge, over to Dinosaur, right?
Yeah, Dinosaur, Colorado, and then cut across Utah.
Yeah, we booked it across Utah because that's prohibition land.
We got videos about it on the YouTube, which we'll plug. Hit Nevada.
Oh wait, yeah, we hit Nevada. Then we got to Weed, California, like right before 420, which was incredible.
It was awesome, right at the base of Mount Shasta. Yeah.
And yeah, we've been tracking everything on our YouTube channel. We did some volunteer work up here,
Portland,
or outreach work in Portland, for the Columbia River tribes. It's a group of tribes in the area that have been affected, well, first by COVID and now by the wildfires. We were trying to, and I'm still reaching out by email to some farmers. I suspect it's going to take some time for them to get back to me, but I want to hear. We did reach out to Jim Belushi's farm. Mr. Belushi's press lady actually answered us, thanked us for being on the tour, and informed us that she would love to let us walk through the farm. Unfortunately, COVID regulations restrict anybody without a badge from walking through right now, so that is what it is. But Mr. Belushi's actually out of town doing some volunteer work himself, some relief effort work himself. So that was cool that connection was made. I want to reach out and get, figure out how some of these farms were affected. They call this the breadbasket of cannabis, this area, Northern California into Central Oregon. And it just got decimated with fires this year. Maybe the ecosystem's angry that we took cannabis away from it.
I wish it was just that simple.
Maybe, or maybe it's just 2020, who knows?
2020 has been a crazy year.
We're relaxing maybe for another week or two, and then we plan to scooch through Nevada, right, or back through Northern California into Nevada. We want to come visit Mother Nature's Den for the first time. I'm so excited to see all the progress going on there, and I miss you guys to death. We wanted to stop by the Garden of Freedom. That's kind of on the fence right now. We recently found out, but we'll see what's going on there. And we're reaching out to a bunch of different farms and ancillary businesses and grassroots organizations, and we're going to try to bring as much of that to our audience as we can. And every $5 gets us about 50 miles down the road.
Yeah, and where can our future audience find us?
At platoon420.com. It's right down there on the bottom. It's been scrolling and the whole time. I love that.
You can also find GI Mary Jane on Facebook at GI Mary Jane, and you can find myself, Ganja Grunt, on Facebook at Ganja Grunt.
It's GIMJ420 is the handle across all social media. So at thingy GIMJ420 should bring me up everywhere. And head on over to Ganja Grunt's page. The likes are rising, and I'm so excited to have an actual better, because I get asked so much, and actually I wear my grandfather's dog tags every day, and people are, you a veteran? And no, I'm not. I've never served. I'm not military. I am the daughter and granddaughter of generations of military, which is maybe where the mannerisms and the mistaken identity come from.
Or maybe it's the fact that they declared war on you.
Or maybe it's the fact that, I'm fighting a war to get back to my son personally. And what I'm going through it's so minimal in comparison to what other people are doing. Like I said, they're actually dying. People are actually dying. I can't stress this enough. Prohibition is killing people. I can't sit by and just be quiet about that and expect my son's watching, right? I need him to understand how valuable life is and how important it is to speak up for those who can't. Because right now, we're labeling them criminals. We're dehumanizing them. We're doing what? The same thing the military teaches you to do
to your enemy.
To your enemy. There is an actual factual war going on.
So if you want to help us spread the message, we have hashtag Platoon420 on Cash App, or hit us up at platoon420.com.
Yeah, everything's right there. Platoon420.com has the shop. We've got the regalia room, so you can also rally swag there. Masks and everything. There's a donation site. There's coffee for sale. And then there's CBD products. There's a full line of CBD products. I'm not going to go into that because your guys' stuff is homemade, organic, and incredible. But we try to get as much on there for people who don't have a resource. And then there's links to everything there. The YouTube page, to my personal page, to Ganja Grunt's Facebook page. Try to keep it all consolidated. But Virgos.
I know it's a lot of work. People don't think it is, but it's a lot. It's a lot it's a lot in activism, and we do it all off the sweat of our own backs, and a little bit of help here and there helps. I mean, we've been lucky to be able to help you out a couple times this past month, and
yeah, the community's been amazing. The community's been absolutely
can't wait for
amazing.
you guys to get here, man. I mean, we really can't. We're really looking forward to you guys coming, and again, we'll go over to Adam's place, the Garden of Freedom. We'll go over that and see that place again together too, which is just another great compound out here. He's just doing some things the right way. We're actually going to have dinner with him Saturday night, me, Helen, and Jim, actually. So that's been the first time we've been actually really gotten together in about a month or so, just because we haven't had time, trying to get this place up and running.
You guys have been
so busy, and your place looks amazing.
Yeah, it's getting there, man. It's getting there. It's getting there. It needs some couple of slight tweaks here and there, but we're gonna get it. After this winter's over, by next summer, we'll be freaking living.
I loved watching the video of the trucks pulling your house like down the road and dropping the house off. That's cool.
Yeah, you'll have some strong arms and some covered backs there here. So hopefully we can help you guys, finish up whatever you got going on. I love seeing what you have grow right now.
Appreciate it. But, all right, listen, guys, I loved having you on. We'll do this again, as probably real close to the election date, and we'll see how we're doing with Joe. Let's see. Hopefully, we can all keep our mouths loud. I saw Elijah had posted in our chat on Telegram that Joe's video got 313,000 views last night. Just in 24-hour period, 313,000 from a third party that they talk about. That's pretty damn impressive. That this country's opening their eyes a bit much more now. That they're that's why my sign behind us says the first choice, not a third party. I'm getting sick and tired of being called a third party, like we're an afterthought. It's disgusting.
And even if they disagree with her message, it's still great that they're hearing it. Because what if a loved one is like, this is what I believe, and that person would be like, then you're Joe Jorgensen's the person that's so getting the message out there is just so important. That's why
Jorgensen on the stage last night with those two moronic dinosaur children, because that's
dude,
all
I was laughing so hard.
That was the greatest comedy that has come out in my lifetime. Okay, it was golden.
I don't know if you heard that they announced that Joe Jorgensen won that debate.
They did.
Yeah. She didn't have to show up.
Hands down.
When Biden looked at Trump last night and said, "Shut up, man,"
Yeah.
I was just like, dude, are you running this country, or are you ready to play dominoes at the bingo?
Oh, I laughed so hard at that, man.
I mean, well, but then our seated president told a militia group to stand by. So this is we are worth so much more than this. It's I don't know why the American people don't think better of themselves. That's all I can say. And if we can inspire them to do so by little actions, then I think it's going to make the world a better place.
If I could ask them to do anything, it's just go the Libertarian Party platform. Just go look. Just go look.
Oh, the website crashed last night. Did you hear that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It got so much traffic. I know. That was awesome,
that's
man.
amazing.
I know.
I
All right, so
predicted
let's
8%.
start that. Let's keep.
I
What's
predicted
that?
8%, and I think I might have undershot it after watching that last night. But my prediction still stands at 8%. I think Joe will take 8% of the vote this year. So says the commander in chief.
That's
We'll
pretty.
see.
That's pretty. That's a good stretch. More than
Like
that,
eight.
but that's still a stretch. I think the problem with this election is going to be the fact of how someone's going to be elected. I think that's going to cause more trouble in this country than anything else. I don't want somebody's 10-year-old filling out their ballot because they're pissed off and got a hair up their ass, and they're going to think it's funny to have a 10-year-old vote for president of the United States. And if you ask me, can it happen? Yes. Will it happen? Absolutely, it will. It'll either A, like I said, get thrown away, or B, somebody will give it to their kid and go, here, fill out this junk so I can fill as a joke.
Here's what I'll say. If any, I've heard the third party, Libertarian Party, is a wasted vote, but the popular vote doesn't actually elect the president. The Electoral College does. So
right.
What your popular vote does is decide who's going to get federal funding for campaigns and who's going to be invited to the debates. So literally, the only wasted votes are the duopoly votes. That third party is the only vote that you can give that actually affects change in the presidential election.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're throwing your vote.
That's right. That's absolutely right. But again, people don't know about the very government that they think that they're electing people in.
Of course.
They don't know.
And that's why we're here.
And all those little levers are the ones running the country, and they're not running it either. You've got guys like Biden, and you've got guys like that have been in and behind the scenes. Fauci, the guys that have been behind the scenes for 50 years. They're the ones making the decisions. And so what can the American people do about that? The fact of the matter is you didn't elect them. How are you getting them out of office? You can't. So you got to make better choices for the people that will be appointing those people to make those decisions for you. And that's what they're supposed to be doing, is making them for you, not for themselves. All right, guys, listen, I'm getting tired. It's been a long goddamn day. It's getting dark here, obviously. And
round two is about to come on, so we're going to go spark up a couple of joints and watch Grumpier Old Men 3, Chapter 2.
All right.
Appreciate
again,
you.
everybody.
Yeah, we love you guys. I love you.
Joie Leigh and Ganja Grunt, we applaud you guys both for this tour you're doing. Thank you for continuing to promote safe cannabis use. Thank you for continuing to promote liberty. And thank you in general for just being family.
Well, we'll see you soon.
I love you guys. See you soon. Pastor,
love you too.
not judgment.
All right, peace. Listen, I hope you guys got to understand a little bit more about who Joie is and the hard work she does and the trail that she's blazing out there. Now, the MORE Act is a very good policy if you're a policy kind of person. I read every policy that pretty much goes to Congress to understand how they're going to bastardize it before they present it back to us in a form in which they consider acceptable. The MORE Act was written quite well. We were absolutely on the right track with it, with still having some governmental and federal control over the plant, which I guess some people are okay with it having. Like I said, it was probably the best policy I've seen put up for the benefit of us, the American people. But then again, as I stated there, it goes to Congress, it gets bastardized, rewritten, and it's a completely different act before it's actually presented back to us in a form in which we can follow and expect some kind of cannabis freedom. But I don't think that that's going to happen. Same thing will happen as what they did with the hemp bill. And when the hemp bill passed, everybody was happy as heck or mad as heck because of things that got axed. But understand this. The Hemp Act was our friend because the Hemp Act enacted our government to have to accept certain things when it comes to this plant. And by them admitting that this plant has health benefits, they're shooting themselves in the foot in the stance of keeping the thing scheduled as a Schedule 1. So now that's where we have to focus our attention. The MORE Act was doing that. The MORE Act was going to take this off the Controlled Substance Act. And we need to do that. And that can come, that can come to us a lot quicker if we continue to look out for people that have our best interests at mind. I find most of those people and candidates within the LP Libertarian Party. So visit the LP.org. You got it on the bottom of the screen. Visit it, learn it, watch it, become part of it. I mean, it is who you are anyway. So the LP, that's where the candidates are. My condolences out there in a very hard run fought race by Chase Oliver in Georgia in a special election. Chase, we were rooting for you all night. Very good showing. Excellent for standing up for principle. Thank you, sir, for being libertarian and carrying out our acts. Well, that'll do it for this Wednesday night. I want to thank my wife, Helen, for joining me briefly while she was able to. And Joie Leigh, thank you for joining the show, as well as Ganja Grunt. I always want to give a special shout out to Jim Freedom, who is my producer, who does an incredible job of keeping the graphics going, keeping this show running the way it's supposed to. Till next Wednesday night, I'm your host, Pete Yapel. Guys, live the freedom in which you choose, because no one can take that from you.